against Vinny Magalhaes in Combat Jujitsu.
Combat Jujitsu might be the next big thing. It really could be the next big thing because it's, as far as like preparation, Jiu-Jitsu preparation for MMA, without kicking and punching and kneeing, standing up, it's the best preparation. Yeah,
for sure. There's a bunch of different ways to look at it. An MMA purist might say, "What the fuck is this Combat Jiu-Jitsu? It slaps. We'll just watch MMA. Like, what's the point?" You know, people can say that easily, but the way I look at it, it's nothing is as good as the UFC. That's the best. There's nothing better than the UFC. But there are jiu-jitsu fanatics that they just want to see jiu-jitsu in the UFC. They're really not that into a kickboxing match. If, you know, Junior Dos Santos fights Cain Velasquez and it's a kickboxing match, great. That would be an all-time great match to watch. But there's a group of jiu-jitsu fanatics that
right.
They just want to watch the jiu-jitsu. But with the strikes, and that's the only, and MMA is the only place where you could watch MMA jiu-jitsu. Right. It's a totally different style. When you watch just pure jiu-jitsu, that's not MMA jiu-jitsu. That has nothing to do with MMA jiu-jitsu.
Well, what people don't understand is if people that don't do jiu-jitsu that are listening to this, like, what are they talking about? There's places where you're going for a submission, but someone could easily hit you in your face. And it makes the move kind of unrealistic. There's a lot of times where guys do unrealistic things, and really you could just be smacking them in the face, and they would have to stop and protect themselves. Yeah.
When you're doing jiu-jitsu without strikes, it's just pure jiu-jitsu, you get into a lot of positions that that would be dangerous if strikes were allowed. So, which is fine. You know, jiu-jitsu, I love submission-only jiu-jitsu. You know,
I do too. And it's just a different thing. It's just you need to understand what it is. I mean, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't do that move if that's the most effective move in that rule set.
Yeah.
But there's a beautiful place for combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, because now we could watch jiu-jitsu fanatics. It's just for jiu-jitsu freaks. We could watch MMA jiu-jitsu, and it's just pure MMA jiu-jitsu. Yeah. We don't have to sit through the striking. Because in MMA, if the fight gets boring on the ground, we have stand-ups. In combat jiu-jitsu, after 2 minutes standing, we have get-downs. We get them down, just like in wrestling. Yeah. You get them down. It's like after 2 minutes, no one, because if we had a 10-minute or 15-minute combat jiu-jitsu match and they were just standing and wrestling the whole time, that match is shit. It's garbage. Yeah. That match, nobody wants to see that. Two dudes just trying to wrestle for 10 minutes. So after 2 minutes, as horn sounds, a coin gets tossed, and if you win the coin toss, you get to decide top or bottom. And we start in sit-up guard, like butterfly guard with double underhooks. You get top or bottom in that position. Wow. And then we start right there. And then if they stand up again, 2-minute clock.
So that's a new thing.
2-minute get-down clock, yeah.
When did that start?
We did that.
I like it.
We did that right at Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds about a month ago. Because that would ruin the show. I constantly am thinking of ways to ruin the show. Like, how can I ruin it? Of course, if they just stand up and wrestle the whole time. And that's going to happen in Combat Jiu-Jitsu. They're not going to pull guard as much as in sub-only. People are pulling guard like all over the place. It's like people are just tumbling, and then there's no strikes, and they're all over each other's legs, and they're just pulling guard and flipping and doing all this stuff that when there's strikes, boom, we get into full guard now. Yeah. And the mount becomes very important. Mount is, you could win 1 million EBIs and never mount a guy. You know, you could just be a leg lock fanatic. You could, you don't have, like, full guard.
Was it Wagner Rocha and Nathan Orchard?
Yes. That was Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds 1. The winner of the lightweight bracket was Wagner Rocha. He beat Nathan Orchard in the finals.
Was he the only guy to stop somebody?
That was the first TKO. Yes, he mounted Nathan Orchard, and referee Mike Beltran stopped the action.
Yeah, it was a good stoppage too. Yeah. Wagner's a very accomplished MMA fighter.
Yeah. So again, my point with in Jiu-Jitsu without strikes, full guard, totally unnecessary. You could win Abu Dhabi 10 years in a row and never put anybody in your full guard. If you never want to play full guard ever in regular Jiu-Jitsu without strikes, you never have to play full guard. You just open up your legs and you just get into some Z or some kind of spiral delahive or whatever. It's totally optional. Most people don't even bother with it. Crone Gracie, he does. He loves full guard, whether there's strikes or not. That's why it's full guard in MMA is very effective, because he always played full guard in his regular jiu-jitsu without grappling. So what happens with jiu-jitsu is you add strikes in an MMA match or in a combat jiu-jitsu match. It's the same thing. When strikes are added, now full guard becomes the most important guard. It was the least important guard in grappling. Now it becomes the most important guard. So if you weren't playing full guard when you were doing jiu-jitsu without the strikes, and now you're doing jiu-jitsu with the strikes, guess what? That's the guard that's going to be the most important one when a guy could smack your head.
Yeah, control posture,
Yes.
pull guard.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to control posture.
Yeah, and again, in sub only, you don't ever have to mount ever. You never have to pass the guard. But in combat jiu-jitsu, now the mount becomes super powerful because now you can mount and strike. In sub only, if you mount, you can't strike. You know, I like mounting in sub only, but you don't have to. You can get caught in leg locks if the guy has a good mount escape right into leg locks. That's what usually happens. Most leg lock masters are very good at letting dudes mount them, and then they buck them off, and right when they escape, they're already on the legs. A lot of leg lockers do that. And, you know, but when they're strikes, you're going to let a dude mount you now? Now he's going to strike you now. It's a big difference. Now, the mount from jiu-jitsu with no strikes to jiu-jitsu with strikes, combat jiu-jitsu, the mount just turns into this monster.
Well, it does, but what's really interesting is you're only allowing slaps. Think about how much more of a monster
palm
it
strikes.
is.
Palm
Okay, palm strike
because
hard.
dudes aren't slapping. They're not going.
They're
ta,
hitting.
ta, ta.
No, but they're hitting hard,
Yeah,
right?
but they're
you're not
actually
allowing.
striking.
What I was going to say is you're not allowing elbows.
No.
Like if you allowed elbows,
Yeah.
then
Exactly. That would,
yeah, it's
there's
pretty much
nothing
over
wrong with
a lot
that.
of those
That's
positions, right?
Yeah. It depends on what kind of guard we're
Yeah.
dealing with. It depends on
Sure.
who's in the guard. I mean,
But like, if you allowed the back to be taken and you allowed elbows, would you go to what we've always said?
What?
You said this a long time ago, that if you had elbows, if elbows were allowed to the back of the head, they would change the whole back mount.
You
There would
would
be
need-
nobody
you-
going for rear naked
no,
chokes.
you would just get the back and just elbow the shit out of the back of their head, and the fight's over. That's what was
Yeah.
happening early in MMA before they outlawed those elbows. They used to be legal for like a couple years.
You remember the World Combat, whatever the fuck it was, where Renzo Gracie fought that guy? What is his name?
The judo guy?
Yeah, I want to say Spiker.
Yes.
Yeah,
Something Spiker.
Something Spiker.
Yeah.
And the judo guy had called him in his hotel room all through the middle of the night, fucked with
Yes.
him, and he got so pissed that when he choked the guy out, he smashed him in the back of the head and then stepped on his neck as he walked off of
Yeah.
him. He didn't choke him out. He took his back, right? He
Yeah.
tapped him with strikes, didn't he? Or did he choke him? I don't remember. He smashed him.
I'm not sure how he finished him, but I do remember him standing up and stepping on his neck.
Yeah.
Like stomped on it.
See if you can find that video. You got the video of the stoppage? It's horrific. But this is the perfect example of how effective elbows to the back of the head are once you take the back mount. So, like, part of me, I see.
There it is.
Yeah.
That was quick, Jamie.
Renzo was a bad motherfucker, dude. People forget.
He's still down to throw down.
Fuck yeah, he is. Look at that. Look at this. Back mount. And then doom,
that's it right there. That's it.
doom. Oh, yeah. Oh, so
And
did
then
he
he
get the
choked him.
choke? So he did get the choke. Those fucking shots were
Those
all it took,
elbows.
man. He's tapping right there, and Renzo keeps holding on to him even after he
He choked
taps.
him with the gi.
Yeah, and then watch, he gets off of him and steps on his neck. Enzo. That guy is fucked up, and that's from those elbows, man. That position changes radically. Look at him, he's trying to pick him up. Renzo just rolls him over onto his back. Oh, that is hilarious.
Man, that was a big mistake wearing a gi.
Oh, huge mistake. Wearing a gi with a guy like Renzo. You
Yeah.
know? He can control
you
you with
kidding
that
me?
thing, and you don't have it, and he doesn't have a gi on? What?
Yeah.
That's silly
And the
idea.
back becomes even more. It's easier to get rear naked chokes as we're allowing. You know, if you got a
Right.
guy's back, you could palm the side of their head.
Well, it's
it
also
opens up
the
choke.
body. Like, if you have elbows to the body. Remember when Rampage stopped Chuck Liddell with elbows to the body? People
Yeah.
forget about that in Pride. Elbows to the body, a guy who really knows how to throw an elbow, that's nasty. You know, I mean, combat jiu-jitsu, you're opening up the door. What you're doing is, like, you're opening up this door to letting jiu-jitsu guys understand, like, where the positions where they'd be vulnerable.
Yes,
But they're not
yes.
going to take the kind of damage that they would in an MMA fight.
Exactly.
So it'll
exactly.
teach, yeah, it's
And
a great pathway.
It's a few things on a few different levels. It's great for grapplers, whether they're wrestlers or jiu-jitsu players, to get into if they're aspiring to be an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
Also, guys that have done 30, 40 fights and they're like, dude, this is just too brutal. Guys coming out of MMA, it's a great place for them because generally before Combat Jiu-Jitsu, all MMA fighter had to retire to if you wanted to keep competing in grappling is like sub only or the points game. And if you're not working on that every day, the last 10 years they were working on striking most of their time, and the purest, like the pure sub only guys, the leg lock guys, and the pure points players, they're working on that every day to win those styles, whether it's to win the points tournaments or the sub only.